The distress signal came through at 3 in the morning, ship time. Daniel Carter was sleeping in a small room when the alarm pulled him awake. He grabbed his medical bag and ran to the bridge of the Endurance. Captain Lavra Bennett stood at the main screen, her face serious. The signal came from a Valorian ship, and everyone knew what that meant. The Valorians were powerful. They controlled 12 star systems and looked down on humans as primitive creatures. They never asked humans for help. They never asked anyone for help. But this signal was desperate. "The ship is breaking apart near the dying star," the navigator reported. "Radiation levels are extreme. They have maybe an hour before complete hull failure." Captain Bennett turned to Daniel. "I need a medical team ready. We do not know what we will find over there." Daniel nodded and gathered his people. 3 medics, all trained for emergency rescue. They suited up and boarded the shuttle. As they flew toward the damaged Valorian vessel, Daniel could see the destruction through the window. The ship was torn open in several places. Fire burned in some sections, while others were frozen and dark. They docked at the only stable airlock. Daniel led the way inside. The smell hit him first. Burned metal and something else. Death. Bodies lay in the corridors. Valorian crew members who did not survive the radiation or the explosions. Their silver skin had turned gray. Daniel checked each one, but there was nothing he could do for them. They moved deeper into the ship. The emergency shelter was at the center, the safest place during a disaster. Daniel forced open the door and stepped inside. 2 survivors. One was a tall male with armor and a weapon at his side. He was unconscious, bleeding from a wound on his head. The other was a female, younger, with silver skin that still held some glow. She wore fine clothing covered in blood. Her violet eyes opened when Daniel approached. "Stay away from me, human," she said. Her voice was weak but filled with disgust. "I would rather die than accept your contaminated touch." Daniel ignored her words. He knelt beside her and opened his medical bag. She had deep cuts on her arms and legs. Internal bleeding, probably. Broken ribs. She would die within the hour without treatment. "My name is Daniel," he said calmly. "I am a medic. I am going to help you whether you like it or not." She tried to push him away, but she was too weak. Daniel worked quickly. He cleaned her wounds and applied bandages designed for human skin. They would have to work for now. He gave her medicine for the pain and something to slow the internal bleeding. The male warrior woke up suddenly. He grabbed Daniel by the throat and lifted him off the ground. "Release him," the female commanded. Her voice was stronger now, filled with authority. "He saved my life, Kethver. Put him down." The warrior named Kethver stared at Daniel with hatred in his eyes. But he obeyed. He dropped Daniel and stepped back. "Princess, we cannot trust these humans," Kethver said. "They are savages. This could be a trap." "Princess." Daniel understood now. This was not just any Valorian. This was royalty. If he wanted me dead, he would have left me to bleed. The princess replied. "Help me stand. We are leaving with them." Daniel called for the shuttle. His team carried the princess on a stretcher while Kethver limped behind, refusing any help. They made it back to the Endurance, just as the Valorian ship exploded in a ball of fire. Captain Bennett met them in the medical bay. She looked at the princess with concern. "We need to contact the Valorian Empire immediately. They will want to know their princess is safe." "Not yet," Daniel said. He was already preparing for surgery. "She needs treatment first. Everything else can wait." He worked through the night. Valorian biology was different from human biology. Their blood was a different color. Their organs were arranged differently. Daniel studied the ship's database and adapted every procedure. He guessed when he had to. He prayed he was making the right choices. By morning, the princess was stable. Daniel sat beside her bed, exhausted. He had not slept in 20 hours. His hands were still shaking from the stress of the surgery. She opened her eyes and looked at him. "You stayed with me," she said softly. "All night. That is my job," Daniel replied. "No." She shook her head slowly. "Your job was to save my life. You did that hours ago. Staying was something else." Daniel did not know what to say. He looked at her face, at her violet eyes that seemed to hold 1,000 questions. She was beautiful in a way he had never seen before. Alien and strange, but also somehow familiar. "What is your name?" she asked. "Daniel Carter. I am Valera Shenther, Crown Princess of the Valorian Empire." She paused. "I was taught that humans are primitive, dangerous, incapable of higher thought or compassion. And now?" Daniel asked. She studied his face for a long moment. "Now I think everything I was taught might be wrong." Kethver stood in the corner, watching them. His expression was unreadable. But Daniel noticed that his hand was no longer on his weapon. Captain Bennett entered the medical bay. "Princess, we are ready to send a message to your father. He needs to know you are alive." Valera nodded but kept her eyes on Daniel. "Tell him a human saved my life. Tell him I owe this man a debt that can never be repaid." After the captain left, Valera reached out and touched Daniel's hand. Her skin was cool and smooth. Daniel felt something pass between them, something he could not name. "Thank you, Daniel Carter," she whispered. He smiled at her. "Get some rest, Princess. You have a long recovery ahead." She closed her eyes, but she did not let go of his hand. Daniel stayed beside her, watching her sleep. He did not understand what was happening. He only knew that his life had changed forever in the last 24 hours. And somehow, he was not afraid. 2 weeks passed on the Endurance. Princess Valera grew stronger every day under Daniel's care. He visited her 3 times daily to check her wounds, adjust her medicine, and make sure she was healing properly. At first, their conversations were short. She gave commands and expected him to obey. She called him Medic instead of his name. She complained about the food, the room, the temperature. Everything human was beneath her standards. Daniel never lost his patience. He smiled at her complaints and did his best to make her comfortable. He brought her books from the ship's library. He played human music for her and explained the meaning behind the songs. He told her stories about Earth, about the blue oceans and green forests and the billions of people living their small, meaningful lives. Slowly, something changed. Valera started asking questions. She wanted to know about human families. She was surprised to learn that humans raise their children with love rather than duty. She was shocked that human leaders were chosen by common people instead of bloodlines. "Your world sounds chaotic," she said one evening. "It is," Daniel admitted. "But it is also free. Anyone can become anything. A farmer's son can become a doctor. A poor girl can become a leader. That possibility is worth the chaos." Valera was quiet for a long time. "On my world, I was born a princess. I will die a princess. There was never another choice. Do you wish there was?" She looked at him with those violet eyes. "I never thought about it before. But now, yes. I think I wish I could choose my own path." Their conversations grew longer. Daniel found himself looking forward to his visits. He told her about his family, about his younger sister, who died from a sickness when she was only 15. That loss had driven him to become a medic. He wanted to save others because he could not save her. Valera listened without speaking. When he finished, she reached out and touched his hand. "You carry great pain," she said softly. "Yet you use it to help others. My people would call that strength. The highest kind of strength." Daniel felt warmth spread through his chest. No one had ever understood him so quickly. No one had ever looked at him the way she was looking at him now. Kethver watched all of this with growing concern. One night, he came to Valera's room after Daniel had left. "Princess, you're becoming too close to this human," he warned. "When we return home, there will be talk. Your father will be displeased." "My father is always displeased about something," Valera replied. "This is different. Humans are considered lower beings. If people think you have developed feelings for one, it will bring shame to your house." Valera turned away from him. "I do not know what I feel, Kethver, but I know this man saved my life when he had no reason to. He treats me with kindness when I gave him only insults. Perhaps my people are wrong about humans. Princess, please consider the consequences." "I always consider the consequences. That is all I have ever done." She faced him again. "But for once, I want to consider something else. I want to consider what makes me happy." Kethver bowed his head and left without another word. The next morning, Captain Bennett received a transmission from the Valorian Empire. High Chancellor Malin, Valera's father, appeared on the screen. His face was hard as stone. "You have my daughter," he said. "I demand her immediate return." "Your daughter is safe and recovering from her injuries," Captain Bennett replied calmly. "We rescued her from her damaged ship. We saved her life. Or you attacked her ship and captured her. We have only your word that this was a rescue." "Father, stop." Valera walked onto the bridge, still weak but standing tall. Daniel was beside her, ready to catch her if she fell. "These humans saved me. They have treated me with honor and respect. I ask you to meet with them peacefully." Malin's eyes moved to Daniel. "Who is this human standing so close to you?" "This is Daniel Carter. He's the medic who saved my life. Without him, I would be dead." The Chancellor was silent for a long moment. His expression did not soften. "Very well. I will meet with these humans. We will use the neutral station in the Cora system. But hear me clearly, Captain. If I sense any deception, any threat to my daughter, the full power of the Valorian Armada will destroy your entire species." The transmission ended. Captain Bennett let out a slow breath. Well, that went better than expected. Daniel helped Valera back to her room. She was trembling from the effort of standing so long. "Your father seems intense," Daniel said. "He is the most powerful man in 12 systems. He has never accepted weakness or failure." She sat on her bed and looked up at Daniel. "He will not approve of my feelings for you." Daniel's heart skipped. "Your feelings?" Valera reached into her pocket and pulled out a small crystal pendant. It glowed with soft light. "This belonged to my mother. She gave it to me before she died. It is the most precious thing I own." She placed it in Daniel's hand. "I want you to keep it safe for me. It will remind you that someone is thinking of you during the meeting." Daniel closed his fingers around the pendant. "Valera, I do not know what to say. Say you will wait for me." Her voice was barely a whisper. "Whatever happens with my father, whatever he decides, say you will not forget me." Daniel knelt beside her bed. He took her hand in his. "I could never forget you. Not in 1,000 years." She smiled then, a real smile that lit up her whole face. Daniel had never seen anything more beautiful. Neither of them knew that the hardest days were still ahead. The neutral station floated in empty space between human and Valorian territory. It was old and gray, built centuries ago for exactly this kind of meeting. When the Endurance arrived, Daniel looked out the window and felt his stomach tighten. 50 Valorian warships surrounded the station. They were massive, each one 10 times the size of the Endurance. Their weapons were visible, pointed in every direction. The message was clear. The Valorians wanted humans to feel small and afraid. Most of the crew did feel afraid. Daniel could see it in their faces. But he did not feel fear. He felt only worry for Valera. She was strong enough to walk now, but the meeting would be difficult. She would have to face her father and defend the humans who saved her. That took a different kind of strength. He found her in her room, dressed in fine Valorian clothing. Kethver had brought it from one of the warships. She looked like a princess again, not like the bleeding woman Daniel had found in the wreckage. "You look different," Daniel said. "I feel different." She touched the fabric of her dress. "These clothes remind me of who I am supposed to be. The obedient daughter. The perfect princess. The future leader who never questions. Is that who you want to be?" She looked at him with sad eyes. "I do not know anymore." "You have confused everything, Daniel Carter." He stepped closer. "Is that a bad thing?" "No." She shook her head slowly. "It is the best thing that has ever happened to me. And also the hardest." The time came to leave the Endurance. Captain Bennett led the human group, along with Admiral Grace Porter, who had arrived on a separate ship to handle the diplomacy. Daniel was not supposed to go. He was just a medic, not a diplomat or officer. But Valera insisted. "He saved my life. He will stand with me." They walked through the station corridors to the meeting chamber. The Valorian guards watched Daniel with cold eyes. They saw a human walking beside their princess, and they did not like it. High Chancellor Malin waited inside. He sat on a raised platform, looking down at everyone. His silver skin was darker than Valera's, and his eyes were the color of deep space. He wore black robes covered in symbols of power. Behind him stood 20 warriors in full armor. They were the Royal Guard, the deadliest soldiers in the Valorian Empire. "Daughter," Malin said. His voice filled the room. "Come to me." Valera walked forward and knelt before her father. He examined her carefully, checking her arms and face for signs of injury or abuse. When he was satisfied, he nodded. "You may rise." He turned his attention to the humans. "Captain Bennett." "Admiral Porter. You claim to have saved my daughter. Yet I see no proof of this." Admiral Porter stepped forward. "We have recordings of the rescue, High Chancellor. We have medical records showing the treatment she received. We have the testimony of your daughter herself. Recordings can be faked. Medical records can be altered. And my daughter has been in human custody for weeks. Who knows what influence you have had on her mind? Father, that is enough." Valera's voice was sharp. "I know what I experienced. These humans risked their lives to save me. Their medic worked through the night to keep me alive. They treated me with more respect than many of our own nobles." Malin's expression hardened. "You speak highly of this human medic." "Too highly. I speak the truth." Father and daughter stared at each other. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut. Daniel watched helplessly, his hand touching the crystal pendant hidden under his shirt. Finally, Malin stood. "I have heard enough. You will return home with me, Valera. There will be no alliance with humans. They are too primitive, too unpredictable. We have nothing to gain from their friendship." "Father, please reconsider," Valera begged. "My decision is final." He gestured to his guards. "Take the princess to my ship." The guards moved forward. Valera looked at Daniel with pain in her eyes. He wanted to run to her, to fight for her, but he knew it would only make things worse. He stood still as they led her away, dotted the door. She turned back. "Goodbye, Daniel Carter. Goodbye, Valera." Their eyes held each other for a long moment. Then she was gone. Admiral Porter tried to continue the negotiation, but Malin ignored her. He walked out without another word. The meeting was over. The alliance had failed before it began. Daniel returned to his room on the Endurance. He sat on his bed and held the crystal pendant in his hands. It still glowed softly, as if part of Valera remained inside it. His communicator beeped. A secret channel, heavily encrypted. Daniel answered. Valera's face appeared on the small screen. She was crying. I cannot stop thinking about you, she said. I tried to forget, but I cannot. My father is wrong, Daniel. He's wrong about humans. He's wrong about everything. What can we do? Daniel asked. I do not know, but I will find a way. I will change his mind somehow. She wiped her tears. Just wait for me. Promise me you will wait. I promise, Daniel said. I will wait forever if I have to. She smiled through her tears. I think I love you, Daniel Carter. Before he could respond, alarms exploded throughout the station. Red lights flashed. The ship shook from a distant impact. What is happening? Valera asked. Daniel ran to the window. New ships were appearing from hyperspace. Dozens of them. Their design was different from both human and Valorian vessels. They were dark and sharp, like teeth floating in space. The Kreth Dominion had arrived, and they had come for blood. The Kreth attacked without warning. Their weapons tore through the station shields in seconds. Explosions ripped through the corridors. Screams filled the air. Daniel grabbed his medical bag and ran. He did not think about safety or orders. He thought only about Valera. She was on her father's ship, docked on the other side of the station. He had to reach her. The lights went out. Emergency power kicked in, turning everything red. Daniel ran through the chaos, stepping over bodies and broken metal. Kreth soldiers were already inside the station. They were tall and covered in black armor. Their faces were hidden behind helmets that made them look like insects. Daniel had no weapon. He was just a medic, but he had treated Marines for years. He knew where to strike, where the body was weakest. When a Kreth soldier blocked his path, Daniel did not hesitate. He ducked under the alien's swing and hit him in the throat. The soldier dropped. He kept running. The Valorian section of the station was in flames. The Kreth had targeted it specifically. They wanted to kill the princess. Daniel understood now. This was an assassination. The Kreth wanted war between humans and Valorians. Killing Valera would start that war. He found her in a corridor near the docking bay. She was surrounded by fallen guards. Kethver stood in front of her, bleeding from a dozen wounds, but still fighting. 3 Kreth soldiers closed in. Daniel picked up a fallen weapon and fired. He hit one soldier in the back. The other 2 turned toward him. Kethver used the distraction to kill another. The last soldier raised his weapon toward Valera. Daniel did not think. He ran forward and threw himself in front of her. The blast hit him in the chest. Pain exploded through his body. He fell to the ground, unable to breathe. Above him, he heard Valera screaming his name. Something strange happened then. Light poured from Valera's hands. It was bright silver, brighter than any light Daniel had ever seen. The remaining Kreth soldier was thrown backward by an invisible force. He crashed into the wall and did not move again. Valera dropped to her knees beside Daniel. No. Daniel, stay with me. Please stay with me. He could not speak. His chest was on fire. Blood filled his mouth. He looked at her face and tried to smile, but even that was too hard. I love you, he managed to whisper. Outside the station, the battle raged. The Valorian warships fought the Kreth fleet while the Endurance and other human ships joined the fight. Captain Bennett gave orders from her bridge, coordinating with Valorian commanders. Old enemies fought side by side against a common threat. High Chancellor Malin watched from his flagship. He saw a human destroyer take a fatal hit meant for a Valorian medical ship. The human captain did not hesitate. She flew her burning ship into the Kreth vessel that fired the shot, destroying both. A human crew died to save Valorian wounded. Malin had never seen such sacrifice. He had believed humans were selfish, primitive, and weak. Yet they gave their lives for people they had never met. People who had treated them with contempt, His beliefs began to crack. Kethver carried Daniel through the station while Valera cleared the path. A new power pulsed from her hands, destroying any Creth soldier who came near. She did not understand what was happening to her. She only knew she would kill anyone who tried to hurt Daniel again. They reached the Valorian medical bay. Human and Valorian medics were already working together, treating wounded from both sides. When they saw Daniel, they rushed to help. "He is dying," one Valorian medic said. "The damage is too severe." "Then work harder," Valera commanded. Tears ran down her face. "Use everything you have." Human techniques. Valorian techniques. "I do not care. Just save him." The medics worked for hours. They cut open his chest and repaired the damage. They gave him blood from both species, mixed together in a way that should not work, but somehow did. They restarted his heart 3 times. The battle outside ended. The Creth fleet was destroyed. Humans and Valorians stood together on bridges covered in blood and fire, shocked by what they had accomplished. In the medical bay, Daniel's heart stopped again. Valera grabbed his hand and poured her light into him. She did not know if it would help. She only knew she could not let him go. For 6 minutes, there was nothing. Then his heart beat again. The machine showed life. Weak but real. Daniel was alive. Valera collapsed beside his bed, exhausted. Kethver stood guard at the door. He looked at the human who had taken a blast for his princess. He looked at the Valorian warriors and human medics who had fought and healed together. Everything was different now. High Chancellor Malin entered the medical bay. His robes were torn and burned. He had fought in the battle himself when the Creth boarded his ship. He looked at his daughter, crying over a human medic. He looked at the proof of human courage all around him. "I was wrong," he said quietly. "About all of it." Valera looked up at her father. "Will you give them a chance now?" Malin nodded slowly. "Yes, I think I must." He walked to Daniel's bed and placed his hand over the human's heart. A blessing in Valorian tradition. A sign of deep respect. "This man will live," Malin declared. "And when he wakes, we will talk about the future. A new future. Together." Valera smiled through her tears. Finally, there was hope. Daniel opened his eyes to a ceiling covered in crystals. They glowed with soft colors, shifting like a living rainbow. He was not on the Endurance anymore. He was somewhere else entirely. Valera sat beside his bed, holding his hand. When she saw him wake, she burst into tears. "You died," she said. "Your heart stopped for 6 minutes. We thought we lost you." Daniel tried to speak, but his throat was too dry. Valera helped him drink water from a crystal cup. It was sweet and cool. "Where am I?" he managed to ask. "The Valorian homeworld. The Imperial Palace." She smiled through her tears. "You have been asleep for 3 months. Your body needed time to heal from the damage." 3 months. Daniel could not believe it. He remembered the blast, the pain, and Valera's face above him. Everything after that was darkness. "The battle," he said. "What happened?" "We won." Humans and Valorians fought together and destroyed the Creth fleet. The Dominion has retreated to their own space. They will not threaten us again for a long time. She squeezed his hand. "But that is not the most important news." Daniel waited. "My father has changed, Daniel. He saw what humans did during the battle. He saw your people sacrifice themselves for ours. He finally understands that you are not primitive or weak. You are brave and kind and full of love." She paused. "He wants to meet with you." Over the next few weeks, Daniel recovered his strength. Valorian healers worked with human doctors who had traveled to the homeworld. The medical exchange was already beginning, even before the formal alliance was signed. Daniel walked through the palace gardens for the first time. The plants were strange and beautiful. flowers that sang when touched, trees with leaves made of light. 2 moons hung in the purple sky. High Chancellor Malin found him there. "Daniel Carter," the Chancellor said, "the human who saved my daughter twice. Once from her wounds, once from the Creth." He stood beside Daniel and looked at the moons. "I have lived for 300 years. I thought I understood the galaxy. I was wrong. People can always change," Daniel said. "That is the best thing about life." Malin nodded slowly. "My daughter loves you. She has told me this many times. She wishes to be with you." He turned to face Daniel directly. "In my culture, this should be impossible. A princess cannot be with a common person from another species. The law forbids it." Daniel felt his heart sink. "But I am the High Chancellor," Malin continued. "I make the laws. And today, I choose to change them." Daniel stared at him. "What are you saying?" "I am saying you have my blessing, human. If my daughter wants you, she may have you. You have proven yourself worthy in ways that matter more than blood or title." The alliance ceremony took place 1 week later. Captain Bennett and Admiral Porter stood beside Valorian commanders as both species signed the historic treaty. Trade routes were opened. Scientific exchanges were planned. Human and Valorian ships would patrol together, protecting both peoples. It was the beginning of a new age. But for Daniel, the true celebration came that evening. Valera met him in a private garden under the twin moons. She wore a simple white dress. No royal jewelry. No symbols of power. She was just Valera, the woman who had stolen his heart. "My people have a bonding ceremony," she said. "It joins 2 souls together across time and space. No distance can break it. No death can end it." She took his hands in hers. "I want this with you, Daniel." He smiled at her. "Humans have something similar. We call it marriage. Then let us do both." The ceremony happened 1 month later. It was witnessed by thousands of Valorians and hundreds of humans who had traveled across the galaxy. Kethver stood beside Daniel as his guardian, a role usually reserved for family. Captain Bennett wiped tears from her eyes as she watched her medic marry a princess. Daniel and Valera spoke their vows in both languages. They promised to love each other through peace and war, through joy and sorrow, through all the years they would share. When they kissed, the crowd erupted in cheers that echoed across the planet. The celebrations lasted for 3 days. Music and dancing filled the streets. Human and Valorian children played together, laughing at their differences and delighting in their similarities. Word spread across the galaxy. A human and a Valorian princess had joined together in love. 2 species that once despised each other were now allies. Other alien races took notice. They sent messages asking about these strange humans who seemed capable of anything. Daniel stood on a balcony overlooking the celebration. Valera stood beside him, her head resting on his shoulder. "I never expected any of this," he said. "I was just a medic on a small ship. Now I am married to a princess and living in a palace." "You were never just anything," Valera replied. "You were always extraordinary. It just took the rest of the galaxy time to see it." He kissed the top of her head. "What happens now? Now we build a future together. Humans and Valorians working side by side. And maybe, someday, we will have children who belong to both worlds." Daniel smiled at the thought. Children with violet eyes and human hearts. Children who would know no hatred between species, only love. Below them, the celebration continued. But Daniel and Valera slipped away to their private chambers. They had waited long enough. The galaxy could spare them for 1 night. Years later, historians would write about this moment. They would call it the turning point, the day everything changed. They would analyze the politics and the battles and the treaties, but they would always return to the same simple truth. A human medic saved an alien princess, and love changed the galaxy forever.